Okay, we're going to start with day 16. So I've already kind of done number 1 before I started the video, but I want to walk you guys through it. So it says shade the decimal that has the smaller value in the tens place. So the first thing we have to do, guys, is we have to mark the digit that's in the tens place. And remember, we talk a lot about thinking about money. So we're going to cover up that thousandths place, and we're going to say, how much money is that? Well, that's $65.30. This is $24.79. Well, when we're thinking money, the tenths place is also the dime, right? There's 10 dimes in a dollar. So that's the tenths place. It's the one right after the decimal. So we have a 3 and a 7. I underlined both of the tenths place digits. Which one is smaller, 3 or 7? Obviously 3 is smaller. So it says shade it. So I shaded it for you. Okay, so number 2 says shade the model to represent the quotient of 1/4 divided by 2. So we have 1/4 divided by 2. Well, we need to turn this into a rational number so we can keep, change, and flip. So we're going to rewrite it with a 1 under it. Okay, so we're looking at two fractions that need to be divided, but we know we can't divide fractions. So we're going to draw our arrow, and we're going to put KCF to remind us that we're keeping, changing, flipping. So we have 1/4 times, we're keeping this, we're changing this, we're flipping this, we're making this the inverse. Okay, so we have 1/2. And now we just multiply straight across, just like normal fraction multiplication. So we have 1 times 1 equals 1. We have 4 times 2 equals 8. So our quotient, or our answer to this division problem, is 1/8. Well, let's look at our model. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they've already divided it for us into 8s, and we're going to shade one of them. So there is our shading the model to represent the quotient of 1/4 divided by 2. Okay. It says Ben used 20 unit cubes to build a rectangular prism. Okay, so if we know it's a rectangular prism, we know that that's 3-dimensional. List the possible dimensions of the rectangular prism. Okay, well, if he used 20, that means our length times our width times our height has to equal 20. Okay, so our total, he used 20 to build, so that's the total number that we started with. So what's going to equal, what times what is going to give us 20? So we know that 5 times 4 is 20. We know that 10 times 2 is 20. Is anything else equal 20? Okay. So if we're looking at these two choices and we know that we have to have 3 numbers, well, this is only 2. This is only 5 times 4 and 10 times 2. So can we break apart either one of these numbers? What times what equals 5? Well, that's a prime number, so only 5 times 1. So what times what equals 4? Oh, so this actually does break apart into 2 times 2. So we could have the length as 5 times 2 equals 20. So 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20, so that works. So 10 times 20 also equals, 10 times 2 also equals 20. So can we break apart either one of these? Well, 2 is prime, so it doesn't break apart. Does 10 break apart? Yes, it does. It breaks apart into 2 times 5. So we have another answer, which is 2 times 5 times 2. But did that really change anything? Right? We have 2 2s and a 5, and here we have 2 2s and a 5. So really the only thing that did was change the order, but that still gives us an answer. We know if he used 20 cubes, the length could have been 5, the width could have been 2, and the height could have been 2. Now, could I have made the length 2 and the width 5 and the height 2? Yes, of course. I could have changed these numbers around any way I wanted, because the volume, the formula for volume, remember, is length times width times height. Okay? All right, so number 4, Taylor completed his budget and found that his expenses were greater than his income. So expenses are something that we're spending when you guys go to the store, when we buy things. Those are our expenses. Our income is what we make. Okay, that's how much we get paid, or if we get allowance or anything like that. So it says cross out the step that he could take to help balance his budget. Well, remember, guys, in 5th grade, if we are balancing our budget, we're going to end up at 0. Okay? So that means if I make $10, I can spend $10. If I make $50, I can spend $50. Okay? So it says he completed his budget, found that his expenses were greater than his income, cross out the step he could take to balance his budget. Well, if he cancels his cable service, is that going to save him some money? Yes, it will. If he works 35 hours instead of 40 hours, is that going to give him less money or more money? Well, if you only work 34 hours, that's going to be less money than if you work 40. So that's not going to help you budget your balance if you went over. If you had more expenses than your income, then that's not going to be the scenario. But if you cancel your cable service, that would help save some money. So if we need to balance it out, this is the one. It says cross out the step he could take to help balance his budget. So this is the one that is the right answer that's going to save him money and help him balance his budget.